God damn it. Hello, testing, testing. Okay. Okay. Now, the goal that I always try to go for is so that we can effectively shoot into the middle here, right? And then I try to at least cut off like these front ships, so they can't really shoot anything. Like they can only kind of shoot at the front guy, but for the most part they bounce. Now the issue that always happens when we start our port battle is that our line doesn't look like this. Our line always needs to have every ship perfectly perpendicular to the wind, where what ends up happening is we normally kind of end up having our ships so they're kind of like this, you know what I mean? So they're on more of an angle. And what happens when we do this, like in the last port battle, is our back of our line started trailing off like here. And that's because when we started the port battle, all of our ships weren't like perfectly next to each other like this. You know, there were some people up here like this, so that when we end up, you know, turning, say if we're going at 180 right now, we're heading this way. When we get to where the green line is and we to go at 90 degrees, the people at the back, which are like these guys over here, are fucked because they all turn with us, but then they can't shoot because they're stuck in the back. Now, the thing that people need to recognize is if they're in the back of the line like that, when we all turn 90, instead of just turning 90 and staying in that stupid little trailed off line in the stern, they need to go like 10 degrees, you know, off of our angle so that our line is perpendicular to the wind like this. Because if it's not, then no one can shoot at the back. So the first thing that we need to do is at the beginning of every port battle, we need to make sure that we have our lines set up properly before we make our first move. Because we lost this initial engagement.
What's time here?
Again? What's that?
I'm here. I forgot.
Okay. We're streaming in Discord if you want to look. So we lost this initial engagement because we didn't have our guys in a nice line where, you know, our target, I'll put the target in this blue color. Our target is always kind of like, fuck, that's the wrong one. Our target's always going to be in the middle because it's the best for all of our ships to shoot at, right? Like, so if our line is ideal and we're all perpendicular to the wind like this, everyone can shoot at the ships in the middle. They always have an angle. But if they're this, you know, stupid ship back here, they can't shoot because they're going to have a very bouncy angle to the kind of the targets that we're wanting. They're going to be really far away, so you're not going to pen jack shit. So if we're sailing down and we make our turn and you're at the back of the line, you got to use your map so you can look at the general construction of the way that our line is, and you got to recognize, okay, me and the three people around me back sitting at the back have to sail a little farther downwind so that our line is nice and straight. So that's the very initial part, is I always try to sail in so the guys at the front that are highlighted in white get cut off so they can't shoot anything. The next part, I guess.
Before we get too far ahead, can I just if I say joined in the wrong position, what am I meant to do? Like, what's the
so
the
you mean
if
at the very beginning, if we all
start,
we're all kind of like this.
Yeah.
We're all fucked up and we're all trying to sail downwind. Is if the people on the right hand side, so over here, have to sail at battle sails, and then the guys on the left hand side over here need to sail at full sails until we all get in a nice constructed line before the first engagement, because that's very important.
Yeah, and according to that drawing, then that'll be a case of sailing battle sails straight downwind, according to that drawing. Yeah.
Yes. So the people on the left, where I put the star, would all be at battle sails, and the people on the right would be at full sails to let ourselves get caught up to each other.
And then if you're a bit dropped out on the whichever bit, you just speed up as and when. Yeah.
Yes. And you have to be able to do that without me telling you, because it's really kind of annoying when I constantly got to, okay, you know, you got to go full sails, you got to catch up, you just got to look. And also, like, if you're way the fuck out here, you got to recognize, like, oh shit, well, I can't shoot anything because where's my firing line? It's nothing. You're going to bounce everything you shoot. So you got to get up higher in the line so you have the proper shooting angle. So that's the one thing about the initial engagement. The next part is when we do any sort of turning, if I say everyone hard right-hand turn. Everyone needs to recognize that when I say that, that automatically means depower and battle sails. That doesn't just mean manual sail to the right or manual sail to the left. A hard turn is depowered in battle sails. Because what happened in the last port battle is right in the middle of our fleet, which I'll circle right here. That was Carr, I think, and that was also Griswold, I think. So what happened is they ended up turning at full sails and powered up. So, they ended up kind of doing something like this, whereas myself, Sporky, or whoever else was in front with me, I think it was Anubis, was doing something like this. Right, they're going this way, they're going this way, which is bullshit, because then when our line gets clogged up, the whole line essentially wants to stay perpendicular with the wind. They always want to be at the same kind of horizontal angle. We don't want our line like getting all cocked up and it's not out of form, because then your shooting angle's fucked. So if we all battle sails and depower, as soon as a turn is called, it will stay together more easily, as opposed to waiting 10 seconds and then next thing you know, you're in this position where you're the guy in the middle of the fleet bunging up everyone else. So we got to try to avoid that bullshit right there in the middle. It fucks everything up.
If
battle sails, depower.
And then if you do find yourself in that situation, you want to talk about it first rather than just letting people find out by crashing, yeah? If it happens.
Pretty much.
Like,
yeah, pretty
And
much. I mean, the goal is we need
to get another
avoid
shot off. Don't wait, you just do your shit. You turn, because otherwise you fuck everybody up.
Yeah, you just turn. If we say hard right, you press T and you press B and you turn your manual sails and you get moving right away. Now the reason, okay, the next point. So I'll keep things kind of constructed as I can. So back to the initial engagement. Our ships kind of should have been like this, right? We're sailing in, we're shooting the guys in the middle of their fleet, ideally these guys right here. So you can get 2 or 3 shots on the guy in the middle. If the guys at the back don't have an angle, they're still shooting at, someone here. So we get 2 targets, this guy and this guy. Perfect. Those guys turn off downwind. Fuck them. That's 2 ships that are out of the fight. Doesn't matter if we chase them. So the next thing that, everyone ends up doing is these red ships at the front that are cut off will inevitably do what they did in the last port battle, and they'll tack. So then they start kind of coming in this direction. Sweet. What I tried to do, because they had ships going all over the place, so hold on, let me clear up my picture here. Make it a little easier to kind of describe. They all started tacking, so they had one guy going this way, they had, a couple ships here like this, and then there was about 2 or 3 guys at the back that were kind of stuck, and those were the guys that we were focusing on initially. They tacked late, so they're coming this direction. When I called the right-hand turn, I said I want everyone to shoot TVM, say TVM's this guy, or whatever the fuck his name was, that guy. Because our line was bunged up in the middle, he was able to just sail past. So essentially we isolated a small group of people, which is perfect, and then every single one of us should have been able to shoot them back this way, because we all were turning and sailing essentially at this angle is kind of the direction that we were trying to shoot. But let me just make a point here. So when they turned, we didn't tack right away, right? So we had a couple ships kind of up farther like this, and then we had some back this way. So we turned late because I specifically wanted to isolate a group of people. Every single port battle, like, people will turn off, that's fine. But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for these clumps of like 3-4 ships. Once everyone starts turning off and getting damaged, their side always ends up being a little chaotic. And people are everywhere. So they'll have, group over here. They might have a couple ships down here running away. But I always like people to stay together, and I look for these clumps. So it was at this point that I wanted everyone to turn right and follow them. So then we can shoot these guys down, right? The guys that are right in the middle. So that was the goal. But again, if we were shooting these guys here, but if our line's fucked up, we can't shoot. We ended up getting clumped up in the middle. It was a bit of a shit show. So instead of everyone being in the same line and shooting, we kind of had like this going on, where there was people stacked up on each other. So then we only get it, like 2 or 3 ships that are able to shoot the guy, which is not great. So making sure that we all stay in that one big line is the most important part, that we're turning together and that you have space so you don't end up blocking each other, because a lot of the port battles that we get into is a bit of a shit show because people are doing this, they're blocking each other. If we had all like 9 or whatever 10 bucks in the same space, not blocking each other, you can literally melt one of these ships, and like if everyone shoots one broadside, he's pretty much fucking dead. And then he'll turn away. And then guess what? You get 2 other ships that we get to focus on. It's all about being effective. Like all of these guys that have fucked off and turned the other way can't do shit. They can't turn. They can't shoot. Nothing. So we gotta utilize these opportunities where we get people cut off like this to make sure that we at least do a shit ton of damage to them quickly, because we spend a lot of time blocking each other and wasting time, and then they end up getting to sail away. So that's one point. So then let's just kind of fast forward to the next point of where they ended up, which is essentially the same thing. They turned back and they started kind of coming back like this. They were all kind of clumped up, but for the most part, they were split up, right? At that point, again, we kind of reformed our little. It was hard turning because some of us were blocking each other, but we kind of ended up having like this kind of situation going. And this is where I raged at Izzy, because Izzy was way the fuck over here because he just happened to turn late, got blocked or something. So he was out of position. But then the whole point is still, we've got these guys here, right here, like these ships here, that are all blocking each other. So the only people that can really shoot are, right here, right here, right here. He's even right here is fine. Everyone's shooting at like ideally this guy. So stop blocking each other is the main point that I'm trying to make. And the only way you stop blocking each other is if you actually listen and we maneuver effectively. You will stop running into people and you'll stop clustering up if everyone does the same thing. It's where people go, battle sails, and some people are going full sails where it just gets fucked up.
If you see a collision coming, communicate it early. It doesn't take 2 seconds to say, "Ayo, shaky, I'm gonna be hitting you here soon. Can you turn a bit, like slow down a bit, or whatever?"
You gotta talk. You can say, "Okay, turn a little left, whatever." Don't be afraid to run into each other if it's gonna end up going the right direction, because no one's gonna lose bowsprits. You're all the same ship, so it doesn't matter, right? Like you won't ever lose your bowsprit if you run into a buck with another buck. So if you have to hit his bow and push him around or something, just do it. Doesn't matter. Now, the other thing that people need to stop doing is when we initially engage ships, Sporky did this, is I'm cutting off the front ships for a reason, right? So they can't shoot. If you start to get damaged, do not turn upwind to try to get away. So what happened with Sporky is he got hit by, like, say, these 3 ships in the middle. He got like 3 or 4 broadsides, got a little damaged. Okay. He went to turn upwind. Guess what? Every other ship that we just cut off upwind has nothing else to shoot except for him. And I can guarantee they're all probably loaded because they've got nothing to shoot at. So he essentially disintegrated off the fucking map. He didn't die, but he took a shit ton of damage. What you do if you're the damaged ship is you turn towards them like this. So he's facing this way, and you stop moving. You neutralize your sails. So, your sails are pointed this way. And you just sail down, you just turn into him and stop. You're not going to take a lot of damage that way. You don't,
So you make
you
him
try
that
to.
You want to have your bow towards the enemy, basically.
Towards them,
right?
towards them. And you stop sailing. And then ideally what would happen after that is, everyone behind him is just going to shuffle down a little bit and just keep sailing past. He's going to stop sailing while he's repairing, and he'll just, kind of filter into the middle or the back of the line somewhere. but you got to turn towards them, or else you're going to get stern raked, you're going to lose a mast, you're going to take all the damage from all the ships that we tried to cut off upwind here. These guys are going to be able to fuck you. So do not turn upwind when you're fucked like that.
What about neutralizing and letting somebody sail down below you?
That's fine, as long as you can, as long as the guy behind you doesn't fuck that up.
Okay.
Because if you, again, say the guy at the front tries to neutralize, so he's got his sails like this, and then everyone else behind goes around him. Then you've got every fucking ship on the bottom end of the line who's still going to shoot Sporky, or who's going to shoot me, or whoever's damaged. So if you neutralize and stop and you do not immediately get cover, you're going to get hit. The other issue with that is that when people are sailing past, there's still pretty big gaps. And if you have any kind of competent fleet that you're fighting, they're just going to shoot in between the gaps. There's no way to perfectly seal that up. It inevitably there's going to be gaps. So you're going to take 1, 2, 3 more broadsides. And if he's pretty fucked up, that might matter. So the best thing to do is to turn into them as best you can and make sure that everyone goes underneath him. And then you're good. But again, focusing on the middle of their group. Because when the middle of the group turns out, then you split their group into smaller groups, right? You split their ships up so they have group 1 here and they got group 2 here. And then we can keep doing that ideally focused fire. And once we do it enough times where we hit, group 1 enough times, they turn around, then we'll focus on, the back of the group, they'll turn around. Eventually, they've turned away so much and we've had, these smaller groups isolated enough times that they're kind of, they might be fucking split all over the place like this. And then that is where you sail straight towards them, straight in the middle. And then you just fucking swarm one group, like say this one, for example. Now, with doing that, that's where, if you, okay, hold on, let me rewind. So back to that, focusing targets.
Quick question.
Yeah.
That's for a case where we have the wind, because most likely we're attacking. In the case of we don't have the wind, you're in the front, you get shoot, where do you turn? Do you turn toward them or you still turn downwind? Because turning downwind is just easier, right?
So let's say, okay, this is their fleet. This is our fleet. Okay. Whoever's going to get focused, say it's, I don't know, this guy right here. Say he gets damaged. The thing that you got to make sure when you're turning away, you can turn out, that's fine. Because, if you're in the middle of the fleet, there's not going to be too much that's going to be able to shoot you because they're already shooting at you. So if you can turn out, that's fine. But the way that you got to position yourself after you turn out is you don't fuck off way down here, because then again, that leaves us in that position where people get split up into smaller groups, right? You got to put yourself right fucking next to someone, right? And you do not sail away. You just get right next to 1 or 2 ships. So you have, a little line like this going, and you just do your best to hide. Don't sail in between 2, because then there's that gap issue that I talked about. But you ideally want to be touching the guy besides you, his fucking paint. You want to be scraping your paint on his, to make sure that you don't get way out of position. So that's the one thing. So and the other thing is with focusing ships, I'm gonna say it 25 times. I'll be like, okay, this guy, everyone fucking shoots that guy, or someone at the back, I'll say, okay, everyone shoots that guy. Those are the 2 targets, 1 and 2. What I'm noticing happening a lot is, say, the ship back here and the ship back here are either bouncing all of their shots off of this guy. They're not doing any damage at all. If you shoot and you notice that you're bouncing, just shoot someone else. You don't have to keep trying to shoot the person that we're shooting. But if these 2 ships, or whoever's going to change target, you have to shoot the same person. So if the 2 at the back can't shoot the first target or the second target, you both got to look at each other and go, okay, shoot that guy. And you got to make sure that you're both shooting the same target, because if we just keep doing this, this guy gets shot and then this guy gets shot, you're not going to do enough damage. They're going to just be able to repair it up, especially with all the meta woods and all that. Oh, hold on, I gotta turn my alarm off. My salmon. Yeah, if you're you got to do a ranging shot. So the other tip for when we're shooting, targeting ships and stuff like that, is do your ranging shot from the stern, because most of the time you guys are shooting at parallel or water, but your stern gun has the hardest angle to the enemy ship. So if you do your ranging shot with the stern and it pens, shoot everything. But if you do your ranging shot and it bounces from the stern, half of your broadside is going to miss. Or if you're shooting from the bow and it pens, you're like, oh, great, I'm going to shoot. Maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of your cannons on the front of your ship are going to pen. The rest of them are just going to bounce. And it's going to be kind of a wasted broadside, because that's not enough when you're fighting a 35K fucking buck or, first rate or whatever. So do your ranging shots from the stern. You have a better chance of penning all of your shots that way. So that's one thing. The next thing is, if we're kind of getting into a position where you're probably going to be able to shoot target number 2, but you have time to shoot that, the other guy at the back, just shoot him. If I say, okay, shoot target 2, and you're like, okay, it's probably going to be 15 or 20 seconds until I can shoot him, just shoot the guy behind him. We don't want to have too much time where no shots are being fired. If you're loaded and you have time, just shoot and reload. Don't waste time not shooting. You want to be constantly firing your guns. Kind of very important part, because I think I said at the beginning, I said there's not a lot of shots going on here. Like, why aren't we getting a lot of shots, this and that? So always be shooting, but just look at the guy behind you, see what he shot, and then shoot the same target. And I think I bitched Anubis out a couple times when we were at the beginning of the fight, because him and I should have been focusing. Well, it's flipped because we had the wind, but him and I should have been shooting him. So I was shooting him. Anubis was in front of me. He shot him like 2 or 3 times in a row. We got to make sure that that's not happening. And that's where looking at your map is important, because you pull open your map and you click on every single ship in the line and you figure out who's the lowest HP, or you figure out where the guy is that you're supposed to be shooting. You look on the map and then you look from your point of view, from your first person, and then you shoot, so that we're not wasting any fucking shots. Because, again, 1-2 broadsides makes a difference. That shit adds up. And that's where Havoc and Toxin and those guys are really good, is that they don't ever fuck that up. Everyone is always shooting the same target. If it's either the one that we're targeting, or if it's some guy at the back that, that's their only option, they're all shooting the same guy. So talk to the people around you. It doesn't have to be dead silent. I do a lot of talking when we're fighting, but you can say something to the guy next to you. Say, oh, hey, you, me, we shoot this guy. Perfect. And that's kind of where Millsy and Chemo's role comes into play when we're fighting, is they're kind of, going to be managing the back of the line, or one of them's going to be managing the middle of the line, and then they'll try to call out targets.
Yeah, you've got a lot of time, especially in the initial engagement between broadsides. You've got a lot of time to check your maps, and if you see something if you see another target getting focused down at the back or something, you can even just call it out. Just say, hey, oh, this guy's getting focused, and then someone near there might say, oh shit, so he is, and I got better shots on that guy, so I'm gonna shoot him. Yeah.
Now the other thing that I keep finding is people. It's an issue where people are chasing. Where, hold on, I just gotta move my mouse on my other computer. You guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, firm.
Okay. So we get one guy low enough. Let's say this guy
joined your channel.
This guy's low HP. He's got 1 bar on his right, and then he's got fucking, full HP in his middle, and he's got, full HP on that side. Inevitably, we're all up here, right? Our ships are kind of around here somewhere. What I always see happening is, say this guy turns. He turns downwind to get away. Okay. He's going this way now. Fine. I'll look at someone at the back of the line, say this is Kellerman, or this is Orteal, someone like that. And I say, okay, you guys got to go hug that guy down. What I see happening a lot is, instead of turning right away and sailing straight at him, people are shooting first and then turning. So what ends up happening is, when they're waiting to shoot, and then they turn their ship, they're back here somewhere. And then you're just chasing the guy around. And it takes 10 minutes to catch up. And then they're able to, repair up in the amount of time that you're chasing their stern, which is not what I want. So if someone is fucking damaged like this guy here, and you're sailing this way, just turn straight at him, and ideally you want to be like this. So he's either got to run into you or you run into him. And then once you hit him, you got to know how to wind shadow properly. And that's where you got to figure that out in game. Someone's got to actually show you how to do it properly, where the wind's in blue. I guess I can probably kind of half-ass draw it. But this is where like you put your sails facing backwards, but at the same time, you're powered up. And the trick to wind shadowing is you're always turning into them. So you're not wind shadowing and, doing it for a little bit, and then they start to turn out. So their ship's kind of like out here somewhere, and they're turning this way. You do not let them get any distance from your ship ever, or else you lose your wind shadow. If they start to move forward, you power up, or you move your sails, so they're facing forward a little bit. But you always are edging slightly forward and turning into their hull at the same time. And they will never get off you until they turn all the way through the wind and you're on the bottom side of them, which is fine. Because then what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to tack. Right? They got to tack to get away. And this is where, being good at like mass spraying and shit, because inevitably once they turn all the way downwind, little white line to show like how this is kind of changed. Once they turn all the way downwind and they try to tack, they're probably going to be pretty fucking low, because we normally end up doing this to someone who doesn't have a repair. So they end up kind of like this, and you're here. You can either turn with him as quick as possible, or this is where you let yourself get a very small amount of distance, very small, and you just mass spray at 100 meters onto their front mast. That is what I end up doing 90% of the times to people when they're trying to run away from me and they're pretty fucking damaged, is I hug them until they're all the way through the wind. And at this point, they're still going to be full sails, because if they go battle sails, they don't tack in time. If they stay battle sails, you just stay on their broadside. You go all the way up into the wind with them. You just keep shooting them. They're not going to get away from you, because you'll be full. For the most part, you'll be at full sails. But if they do stay full sails and they go to tack, that's where you just stay 15 degrees off of their angle, sail a little bit away, and then just at point blank do 100 or 250 meter spray works the best, depending on how quick you're going at their front mast. And most of the time, it'll fall. If you get, 8, 9, 10 shots at point blank, it's going to fall off. Once they lose their mast, they're fucked. They're dead. You can then just keep hugging them, redo your wind shadow that you're doing again, and you hug them until they die. But no one seems to do that. Everyone seems to sail past after they shot, and the next thing you know, their ship's over here, and they're chasing their stern. And I'm sure everyone can kind of agree. It seems like, you'll probably end up doing just that, where like you're chasing the guy around, which is kind of annoying because it takes too long. Because any of these good groups, again, Polish guys, Prussian guys, if we take too long to kill someone, inevitably someone else is going to die. Like because I've sacrificed one of us to go hug someone down, we might be shorthanded somewhere else. Like we might have a group of guys over here that are only 2. And then maybe we have like 4 over here that are doing a, 3v, whatever, it doesn't matter. Say there's a 4v4 and then there's 2, and then we got 1 over here and we got 1 over here. If you're taking 25 minutes to kill that guy, it's just a fucking absolute waste. And I see that a lot of the time is this person doesn't end up dying. They end up sailing away, and then you're on their stern, and then they get back with their friends, and then it's wasted. So take advantage of those opportunities, and we don't miss them, where when we get one person isolated and he's low, he has to sink. If he doesn't sink, we fuck the engagement up. No one should be able to get away. So then the other point, don't be greedy if you get in that position where you're isolated with one person, you've got HP, you've got a repair, and there's no one around you. Do not fucking board that guy, especially in the beginning of the battle, or if it's unclear that we're going to win. I always tell people to sink someone if it is very obvious that we're going to win. So say what happened last time on the last, again, I keep using the same port battle because there's a lot of good examples, is we had like Chemo, Izzy, and I think Griswold, like somewhere up here, very damaged. They had a couple ships, maybe like, I think they had like 4 or 5. I was over here. I had 2 ships. I was in the circle, capturing the circle. Say I was in A. Porky boarded this guy. Now, if you board and you have full prep and they have full prep, disengage. The first thing you do is you click defend and you disengage right away, right off the start. There's no point in sitting there and hoping that you're going to get that boarding in a couple rounds. I can guarantee you you're not. You're not boarding a Trink. You're not boarding something with a lot less crew. It's going to take too long. And what ended up happening is one of these guys saw that and said, oh, I'm going to go fucking down here. And he sat right here. So then by that time, as soon as Sporky disengaged, guess what? The other guy boarded him, and he had 400 more crew because he boarded him for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds. And, you know, he may have had the other guy low, but, you know, he was ready for the boarding. So he ended up losing his ship, and he did not have to. He shouldn't have died. He should have spent, 5 minutes hugging the guy down, broadsiding him, killing him. So don't be greedy.
Yes, Porky.
So that's kind of the one thing. Because I mean that guy specifically, he had. I'm just gonna draw it just to reiterate what exactly he looked like after I left him. He had like that much HP, and he only had fucking 2 masts. I'm pretty sure. I think I demasted his middle mast. Right, so he's not getting away. He had this situation going on. Sporky had this situation going on. Something like that. He had way more HP, and he had a repair. So he should have just saw that and been like, all right, shoot him down, kill him. Because at the same time, we also had like the fort and shit like that over here, right? And they were shooting. You don't want to board and stuff like that when you're alone next to a fort. Just goes badly. So don't be greedy. Make sure you recognize when you cannot get help or no one can come back to you. Only board someone when you have someone around you that can, reboard or something like that. Because boarding works best when you tag team. You do a couple rounds, disengage, let the other guy attack. Perfect, done. Then you can get away, get a crew rep in, so you can't get reboarded again. Okay. Any other kind of questions so far based on all the ranting that I've been doing?
Sure. When you ask someone to go and hunt someone down because he's low HP, when do you if you're taking a beating on yourself as well, when do you stop, or do you even stop, or you just go till he dies, and even if your ship's fucked, you go hide and then okay?
So for the most part, when I'm telling someone go hunt that person down, I look at what your HP is, and if you've got a significant advantage, I just want you to hug them until he dies. So say this is
even
your
if
ship.
that's going to cost your whole side.
Say
he's not gonna. I think
hold on.
he's saying he's not gonna really ask you to do it often in times where you're not
Yeah.
gonna have an
So
advantage
say-
to use.
This is our guy. This is the enemy guy trying to run away. And at this point, we've all focus fired him down. He's got maybe 1 or 2 bars, kind of like that, right? I look at you, I look at him. Even if you don't have a repair for a couple minutes, should matter. You might end that exchange. I raced too much. You might end that exchange looking like this or some shit. But for the most part, you're going to have a repair to repair it up. And he's going to be dead. He's not going to have anything. Done. Game 1, all you do after that, fuck off for 10 minutes. 5, however long you got to do to get your repair up. If you start and you're super damaged, like you guys look the same, say you look like that, don't fucking stay on that guy. Hit the brakes. So put your sails backwards. And then you just let someone else who's in behind you say, look, I can't do it, I don't have enough. Then the next person who's close looks and says, I will sub out for you and I will hug him down. But that's where you got to be vocal and you got to say, I can do it. I've got enough HP. So you can't be afraid to use your HP. And that's my next point. Is a lot of the time, there will be 2 or 3 people in the battle that are super aggressive. Like myself, for example, I always seem to like sail straight into the middle of people. So if we got a couple ships here, but there's one guy up here, say this guy's super dead. We got one guy here who's fucked up. So this guy's low HP. This guy's maybe kind of fucked up. This guy's full. And this guy's full. If you know you're the full ship and say you got to repair in 2 minutes, 2-minute rep, get your ass in there. You can lose 75% of your ship because you've got to repair. You're good to go. This guy down here, I guarantee you, has got a 7-minute rep. He's got a 7-minute rep. So he can't fucking stay there. But a lot of the time, the person who's, got the repair, got the HP, thinks that they're a little afraid to take damage. So they kind of stay far away. Or, if they do decide to follow that guy, they're following him out here. Too far. If you're the full guy, you literally need to be right here on top of him. So just throw yourself in there, and you got to be pointed the same direction that they're pointed. Hold on, let me. So like this, for example. You can never hug someone down if you're pointed the opposite direction. It doesn't work. Inevitably, they will creep away from you, and then they get away. You have to be the same direction. So you get your ass turned down, get next to him, hug him down. So don't be afraid to use your HP, especially if you have a repair coming up. Because, 35k, if you got a seasoned buck or something like that, you can take a shit ton of damage. You can take 7, 8, 9, 10 broadsides on one side, and it's not going to be terrible for you. So everyone has to be as aggressive as the person next to them. And that's kind of the thing. I like to try to go balls to the wall sometimes and brawl and stuff like that as much as I can. But if everyone doesn't have the same mentality, then it doesn't work, because there will be 2, 3 ships down here brawling with, 2, 3 ships. And then there'll be one guy over here shooting down, doing absolutely nothing. So then my next kind of point is stop stern ranking people. It does nothing. Unless we have our line going, we're upwind, they're downwind. And they all start to tack. I'm going to use this guy as an example because I can draw his HP. He's got no side, but he's full on every other side. If when they start to tack, everyone still keeps shooting this side, it's useless, because he'll be able to repair that side up again. This is where you stern rake people. When people are tacking, if you're chasing someone down, don't try to get shots into their stern. It's not going to do fuck all, because you can only take so much damage away from their center structure. If you're chasing someone and you're full, get right fucking next to them. That's it. Especially in port battles. Just get right next to him and just fucking shoot the guy down. Stop chasing people. Doesn't work. Takes too long. Okay. Next question.
We had a kamikaze guy that got through at Conttoy or whatever it was. He went right down the middle of our double line.
At Conttoy?
He should have just, yeah, he
or
should
at
have died.
Santanillas?
It was the Conttoy or whatever. That one guy, he banned everybody or whatever. I thought it
When
was.
when we all tacked, when we tried to do that right hand turn, you mean? Or when was it, do you think?
I think the
Like,
front
what
of the line was
kinda-
doing the right hand turn, but the back of the line wasn't, and they
Okay,
let that guy
so what,
go
we got
right
like
through.
we got
He
like
went
a
through,
couple
like,
guys
6
doing this
people.
or some shit like that?
Yeah, but he ended
I
up.
think I know what he's talking about.
Find it on
Are you
the
talking
clip.
about when they were going through? We were supposed to push bow to bow, and I ended up coming in and nosing them over, and we ended up getting them maybe 12 minutes later.
Yeah, it was Creole when Creole first got put
Creole
into
came through the
trouble.
line, so So Creole came through the line, and like there were like 4 boats in front of me that could have intercepted him and pushed his nose. So I was like the 4th ship back, and they don't push their nose, and then I see that the first 3 ships just sail by him, so I move over to push the nose, and I end up pushing him downwind and towards the top end of our fleet there.
Yeah. So basically, Walk was the one who started it, but like 3 people had the opportunity to redirect him, and the last guys at the line really tried to block him and hold him up. But that was something that if we do that where he's in the middle of our line, instead of everybody just taking pot shots at him, like that dude's isolated and dead. We just literally stop and pound
I'll kind of draw this a little bit. So this is kind of what I'm thinking you're kind of describing, where like people are kind of split up. There's one guy, this guy right here, who's just sailing right in between our entire group.
Right, and you were on that right side because you called out for someone to push his nose down.
I was over here. I said, okay, someone run into him. And that's, I guess, I can use Elika as an example, where when we were in the circle, and actually I'll draw it because it's much easier to describe it that way. Don't fuck up running into someone's bow. We're in the circle like this. This guy's sailing this way. I think Millsy was here. Elika was here. And then we had 2 guys downwind. I think this was Kellerman. And I don't know who this was. Can't remember. When I said, okay, Elika, run into the front of that guy's ship. He stayed full sails. He stayed power up. Can't turn. Right? So what ended up happening was instead of going tip to tip and stopping him dead in the fucking water, he took too long, hit here, spun the guy a little bit, which was kind of useless. And then we kind of ended up with this situation where he was down here. This guy's just fucking off upwind. This guy's still able to shoot him, but guess what? It's going to take longer because Kellerman can't do shit where he is, right? So we only have 1 ship shooting. So if you're going to run into someone, depower, go battle sails, stay slightly above them. So you're like this. And you just very slowly turn in little bit by little bit, because inevitably he only has one way to go. He's going to turn down, right? So you just aim very, just take it slow, hit them in the bow, and you will push them all the way through, and you'll end up on their broadside. Because what happened here is this guy had, wrong marker. This guy looked like this. He had very little right-hand side structure. So if Elika would have ran into him the way that I wanted him to, he would have spun the guy around, and he would have ended up on his weak side like that. But because he missed it, his weak side was upwind, he had his strong side downwind, and he only had 1 ship shooting at him, so it took an additional 5 minutes or something like that to catch the guy. And again, if we're fighting a good group, and you fuck that up and you don't stop them dead, especially when I give you enough warning. Sometimes I'm like, hey, someone run into that guy, and it doesn't work out because I'm looking on my map, and on my map, it looks like you can, but in actual battle, maybe they're a little bit too high in the wind or some shit like that, so you can't run into them. But if you have enough time, you've got to make sure you do it properly. Especially if when we're all sailing like this, and they got one guy fucking sailing this way. They got one guy sailing this way. All the rest of his ships are fucking over here somewhere. A couple are this way, going here. Our guys were over here. You stop him dead in his tracks by running into him. All of these people who were focusing on these guys here can then just shit their way onto his downwind side and sit right here and shoot him down. And also, they'll be pointing the right direction. So if he tries to turn off, guess what? We're there. We're ready for him. Then the guy's upwind, one person runs into him. Okay, great. One person, say the guy in front, moves to his side. And then the other guys, I can either sit here and shoot as well, but you got to make sure that you're not sitting right next to someone. If there's 2 or 3 ships that are going to try to wind shadow, sit like this. So more than one person can shoot. as opposed to, you sitting right here, right next to him, and then only you can shoot. So if we have a bunch of ships around you, just make sure you leave enough space for people. So do kind of this thing, and then you'll be fine, because we got one guy in the front who stopped him from moving. He can't get away. And then everyone else on the downwind can shoot. Because what we end up doing most of the time, which I see a lot, which happened in Truxillo, where I asked Chemo to hug down one person. What ended up happening was this. We had like fucking 7 ships all blocking each other, and guess what? The only person that can shoot, this guy right here. And then all of these guys are doing nothing.
That was that French Ferdinand guy's fault, though.
That's fine. I mean, shit happens, but again.
Not trying to point finger.
Not pointing fingers. I mean, I will point fingers at people as an example. But if you're this guy, or any of these guys, just fucking sail away. If you're getting stuck or something like that, and it's kind of hard to sail away, or you're a guy in the middle, stop your sails. Just go, literally put your sails up to stop. It's the only time I'll say that. Let everyone else around you just sail by, because everyone's still going to be moving a little bit. If you stop, you're fine. Just let everyone sail past you and move on. So don't clump up. And if you get clumped up, just do your best to get off each other. Don't be going full sails, pushing each other around, upwind, downwind, all over the place. It's a fucking shit show. All the time while we're stuck next to each other, there's some other person in our fleet getting gunned down. Okay. Next question. Anybody?
Be afraid to ask.
Yeah. Don't specifically ask, because this is the time that I want to try to explain something if it's, confusing, or you feel like you're getting lost.
I want to say about that thing that happened to me there. It was, I did hit this bow, but I hit it at a too steep angle and too fast, as you said.
Yeah, so you were just moving too quick. You were at full sails, you were powered up, you couldn't turn in time. He was able to just kind of turn away, and you hit, oh, Jesus, hold on, I'm taking my salmon out of the oven. And yeah, you just no, fuck that.
Do we need to specify when we question someone to ram, if they're to ram and turn them, or ram to stop them?
If you're trying to ram into someone, don't worry about turning them or anything. I mean, I might say, for example, I'll use this as an example, because I will say this a couple times. Whenever we start an engagement and say they start tacking through the wind, they're doing some shit like this. They might get a couple people out. They're tacking around, blah, blah, blah. I normally will, again, try to aim for someone up here. And I'll say, okay, say we end up, hold on. We end up kind of like this, where if I'm at the front of the line, we have all shot, we're up here, right? Then we got ships in the back. I will say, Hiddings, or whoever it is, run into the bow of that guy, because he'll be trying to attack. So he'll be like this. I'll run into the bow of him and push his bow this way. And the reason for that is all of these guys are going that way. We push this guy with us. We've got our entire fleet in this direction. He's also going this direction. So we can hug him down. And again, do the wind shadow thing that I was talking about. Where as long as you're going the same direction as the enemy ship, you can stay on him for fucking 10 broadsides if you want to. He will not be able to get off you. And then the rest of his guys, who have already tacked through the wind, probably lost some wind, are going to have to turn downwind to come save him. And then they're going to be way the fuck over here. They're not going to do anything. So if you're going to run into him and stop him, unless we say, push him around, or if you see him and I say run into him, the goal is to get their ship pointed the same direction that you're going to be going, or that we are going to be going. So if you can push him all the way around so he's facing the same direction, so he's pointed this way, perfect. You'll end up on the top side of him if you run into his bow and push him that way after he's tacked. Then you can wind shadow. So that's kind of the goal when it comes to running into someone, is just run into them so that they're facing the same direction that you're trying to go. Because if you run into and then they end up slipping off and sailing away, it's pointless. It's kind of just wasted, because then that person is just going to end up 25 miles away over here. Bastard's really good at that. If you watch the U.S. port battle today, or if you were in the U.S. port battle, that happened a lot, where they ran in. They would just sail past each other. They would take turns turning. So the U.S. guy or the fucking bastard guys were going this way. The U.S. guys were going that way, and they would just take turns shooting at each other in the middle, and then they'd turn, and then they'd do the same thing, turn and shoot, turn and shoot. You'll never fucking kill anyone doing that. You got to be going the same direction.
So instead of focusing on the one broadside or the broadsides where people are like, hey, I'm shooting the same target, but they're only hitting in their 20s, we're trying to get our ships going the same way, to where we just have the one or two guys that can hug people down, but they're shooting 30s and 40s on their pens.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can get 30 pens on someone, 40 pens, whatever. If you hit this guy and he's got no right hand side at all, that side's full, but you're going this way, everyone's going that way, everyone's going the wrong way, you're not going to do shit to him, because he's just going to fuck off. He's just going to end up, again, 25 miles away, preparing. He'll just stay out of the fight, and then then we have to restart from fresh again. We got to find someone who eventually gets isolated, who gets out of position, that we then just try to hug, swarm, and smack them. So then I guess that's the next thing, is where if we run into someone and we get him pushed around, so he's facing this way, the guy who ran into him's here. Say we got a fucking ship over here or whatever. We got a ship over here. Once you do that, one guy has to go on his downwind side. Because if we get ships on both sides facing the same direction, like this, there's no way that guy survives. There's no way. Because the guy on the top is going to be wind shadowing. He's not, going to be able to move. If he does move, his only direction to go is right-hand turn. That's the only way he gets out of the wind shadow. But if he right-hand turns, he's right-hand turning right into the fucking guy below him. So then he can hug his other side. But what happens sometimes is this guy goes on his downwind side, but he's facing the wrong way. So eventually, the guy's upwind will just slowly creep forward, and then, instead of being on his broadside, he's kind of trying to reverse, trying to, get next to him, but he ends up fucking here. And then the guy eventually turns away. So point the same direction as the people you're trying to focus, or else they will get away. If you point the same way, they will never get away, and they will be sunk 50% faster than all this chasing people around that we always end up doing. So if I see you and I say, okay, car, turn right, there's chemo on your right-hand side, hug him down, just instinctively get yourself turned. So you're either going to run into him and you're going to, you're facing him like this or some shit, but you're turning so you're going the same direction as him, and then you can sit right next to him. But do not wait until you're over here to turn, because then at that point, it's too late. You're chasing. So turn early. Or if you open your map and I don't specifically tell you, hug that guy down, but if we're all up like this and you're this guy and you open your map and, their line is, as long as their line's not fucking doing this or some shit, if they're a little scattered, we got this guy kind of isolated, he's, most of their guys are over here or something like that, just turn. Just do it instinctively and end up like this. Because if you turn and I recognize that you're wind shadowing the guy, or you can say, I'm going to turn and wind shadow him and hug him down, I'll say, okay, everyone right-hand turn so that we can make sure that this guy dies. But you got to make sure you tell me that you're going to do it. If you see that you can do it and you have enough space to get turned and get down onto him, say, I can get on him. Do you want me to hug him down? I'll either say yes or no.
The two big things is always communication, and remember, boat game is a full contact sport. Your ship is also a fucking tool. It's not all gonna be pretty fancy, like 100-meter line shooting the whole time. It's gonna get fucking messy. You're gonna get your elbows out, and that's what it is.
Yeah. So those are kind of like the main things that I noticed that we end up getting fucked up on.
Is there a better way for us to take advantage of when we fought the Swedes? Half of them were going one way, and the other half were. It's like they were crisscrossing us. Like,
had like a little circle, Mongolian archer circle going on for a second there.
Yeah. When you get some of them, like, okay, I see what you mean. So, like at the beginning, like we're going this way. They got 3 ships going this way. They got these 3 ships who were attacked going that way.
And then they're just rotating in a circle, like
we're all up here. If you, again, this is where just constantly shooting comes into play. Where I will say, we're focusing on 1 and we're focusing on 2 because these are the guys who are going the same direction as us. I'm gonna say that. But if you're, you're these guys here, you're still able to shoot this guy, but you notice all these assholes passing by you, and you recognize that you're going to have time to shoot and reload again, that's where 2, 3, and 4 are going to say, okay, 2, 3, and 4, let's shoot this dick as they pass by, and every single person shoots the same ship. But then ultimately, after you shoot that, is we don't really care about where these guys go. They're going to, they're going to turn, they're going to fuck off, they're going to go somewhere. We still generally have the entire group converging on these 3 people. So if you have time to shoot someone, make sure everyone shoots that guy.
So what ended up happening is, like, I was 4 in that situation, and 1 was like half health, and Rook was that guy you just took the circle from, and Rook was blocking my view. So I dumped like 2 loads into him, and whenever I got a chance to shoot at 1, he was Rook. Yeah. And once I finally got a chance to shoot by on my shot
and you're loaded, if you think, okay, this guy, say he's farther back. Say this is Rook, and Rook is right here sailing this direction. If you're loaded and you cannot shoot our primary target number 1, everyone shoots fucking Rook. Everyone shoots this guy because by the time he gets by you, you're going to be reloaded again. You're going to be shooting target number 1. So instead of just holding your fire and letting them go by, because as they are passing us, they're picking on one of you as they sail by. So one of you guys are getting fucked up. And if you don't do any shooting, we got one guy who's fucked. So one guy's got no side. All of their guys are full because no one shot him. So we lost that exchange. We had one guy who just got royally fucked and none of them got shot because everyone was holding when they didn't realize I can shoot, reload, and then be able to shoot our primary target again. So don't be afraid to fire, but make sure that you shoot the same ship is the point.
Yeah, because the long-term game of something like that is that, like, you'll gain a couple ships advantage in the main fight, and then that gives Shaky more options in terms of what he's able to get us to do in the actual PB.
Yeah, the beginning's always a fucking shit show because we're just hoping that one guy gets fucked enough and they make a mistake that I can make sure that we target them down. Like, again, these 3 guys at the front who attacked too late, and we continued. And we continued, so they got separated, and it's like, okay. But
it really just all stemmed off of our line being awkward at the get-go because,
because
1, 2, 3,
we were just
4,
a little messy.
Or however you want to number it, the back 4 guys, which I think were Chemo, me, Izzy, or someone else. Never really got in a line, and like we were shooting. Maybe if like we got 3 pins per broadside, we consider that a good volley there for 3 or 4 rounds.
And that's because we had this shape going on.
Right. And it was fucking atrocious angles for us.
Yep, and then that's where you go, oh fuck, I'm this guy back here. Instead of sailing this direction with the rest of the group, I'm going to sail this direction at full sails to gain that speed. Because most of the time when we get into this engagement, everyone is at battle sails. But if you're at the back and you're out of position, go full sails. You can take a couple fucking broadsides to your masts, but eventually we need to be like this. Or if you're the one, like, okay, I'll use Santinellas for example. Actually, it was very similar kind of setup, where we were upwind, but we were sailing this direction, I think. Oh, wait, that's incorrect. We were sailing this direction, but there was someone in the back that was fucking down here. And we had them on the downwind side, right? and we were following them like this. And then I think a group of them tacked and ended up here. And then we eventually ended up following them because they were one group that I realized, okay, we can follow these guys, chase them down, and then still have a route to get back to A or get back to B, the circles. If we're going to chase someone, chase them at least upwind. But the thing here is that if you're this guy in the back and you're rocking along at battle sails like everyone else, you're not shooting anyone. You can't do jack shit. But you got to not be afraid to go full sails and catch up to the group. Because if you're back here and these guys are any kind of good team, they're just going to come hug you down. So don't be afraid to go full sails to get close to everyone or to catch up and get back in position. Because if you don't, someone like Havoc or someone like Toxic are just going to rock up and you're going to be the guy in the position where you're like this and they've got this going on. And you're like, help me, and then we got to turn around and come push you out. So don't let yourself get too far away. And again, if we say right-hand turn here, and I'm going to use Izzy as an example. If we say right-hand turn and we're going this way, but Izzy's over here, what's he going to do? If he turns and follows us down, he's way the fuck over on his own. All it takes is a competent person to recognize that, and he's going to end up down here with 3 fucking ships on top of him, and he's not going to be able to move. And then I get pushed into a position where, as me calling the general direction, I've got to sacrifice whatever advantage I think we have. If we've got, 1 or 2 guys right here, and they've got that going on, I got to fucking turn and try to save whoever it is that's down here instead of killing that guy. So then you get it again in the position where we're just zigzagging back and forth. So make sure, even if you're going to run into someone, that you follow and you turn. Don't wait just because you get blocked. Just start your turn. Doesn't matter if you bump into each other a little bit, whatever. Figure it out. Someone slow down. Sorry, that's supposed to be a racer. Someone slow down so you don't end up, next to each other. The downwind guy, for example, can just stop his sails and slow down. So instead of being next to those 2 ships right here, he ends up at the back, which is perfect. Fine, doesn't matter. Okay. So yeah. Main group, when we turn, we always try to keep our line perpendicular with what the wind is doing. However, there's a couple of exceptions of that. For example, if someone is going tight as shit with the wind, like their group's going super tight with the wind like this, we can be a little, you don't all have to be crocking away like this because, it doesn't have to be perfect. But as long as you're closer to them, like this, at least you still have the right angle for everyone to shoot at one person. It's just if you're farther away up here, you're useless. Hi, Luna. I know she wants to be part of the conversation. Yeah. So don't be afraid to get close, I guess is kind of the summary point for that. Okay. Anything else? Don't really have anything else I want to talk about. Anybody?
You don't want to say it now, you can talk about it later in private, it's no problem.